Hi, I'm Kat, and today we're going to be talking about 11 questions to ask yourself for a curated closet. So these are questions to ask both when you're thinking about decluttering an item from your closet and when you're thinking about making a new purchase. So if you have an item in your closet that you're not sure what to do with, or a purchase that you're not sure whether you want to make, then I would consider all of these questions before you make a final decision. And hopefully these questions will help guide you in your decision-making process so that you can be more mindful as you curate your wardrobe. So let's jump right into it. All right, the first question to ask yourself when curating your closet is, does this fit right now? Or how did this item fit in the past? So I feel like these two questions go hand in hand because I'm of the belief that an item doesn't necessarily have to fit you right now in order to have a place in your closet. And this goes for items mainly that you already own, so I wouldn't recommend purchasing a new item that doesn't fit you. But if you have an item that fit you perfectly in the past, and maybe it's a little bit too big or a little bit too small for you now, then I wouldn't recommend getting rid of that item right away. If you still love it, and if it did really fit you well in the past, then I think that is reason enough to hold on to it for the future. I personally fluctuate between a few different sizes, so there are some items that don't fit me right now, but I have gone back and forth between them fitting me in the past. And they may never fit me again in the future, or they might because that's happened before, and I will be glad that I held on to them. So why get rid of that item if you're just going to be sad that you got rid of it in the future, and then you'll have to repurchase something new? So my rule here is that if it fit you well in the past and you still love this item, then hold on to it, put it in storage and come back to it later, and maybe it'll fit you later, or maybe you'll decide that it's time to let it go. But at least you're giving yourself that choice in the future. And then if you have something that fits your size right now, then you do want to ask yourself, how does it fit me? Does it fit me well? Is it gapping at the waist, or is it hugging all of my curves? Is it too long? Is it too short? Do the straps dig into your skin? Think about how it fits you and how comfortable you feel in it. And if it doesn't fit you well now, and it never fit you well in the past, then I would say that's reason enough to either get rid of it or not buy it in the first place. I think that clothing should fit our bodies, and we should not have to fit our clothing. It is a one-way street there with clothing, and clothing is meant to fit us. So if it doesn't fit properly, then either consider having it tailored, or declutter it, or don't buy it at all. Question number 2 to ask yourself is this item good quality? If it is not good quality and the seams are coming apart, or maybe the fabric is really thin and flimsy, or maybe it's polyester and it's scratchy and it won't wash well, then that is reason enough to either declutter it from your wardrobe if you don't like it enough, or to not purchase it in the first place. Quality really matters in the longevity of clothing, which is something that I've come to realize in the past few years. There are some clothing items that I purchased that were lower quality, and they only lasted a year or two before they really started to look not too great. And those items went out of my wardrobe and were decluttered a lot quicker than the ones that were of higher quality. Quality kind of goes hand in hand with fit as well. A lot of times higher quality items are going to fit better. Think about if the quality is going to serve you and your life and your body and how you're going to wash the fabric and care for it. Is the quality a high enough standard that it will last 5 or more years in your wardrobe? Because the goal is to really have our clothing last as long as possible to create less waste. So quality in this case really matters. Question number 3 is a little bit of a weird one, but I always find this question really helpful to ask myself when I'm thinking about decluttering an item. And that question is, will a future descendant be happy to inherit this piece of clothing? You can think of this being your future children, or just some future relative, or even just some young person in your life. When you are a little old lady or man, will a younger person be happy to receive this piece of clothing secondhand? And a lot of this, again, has to do with the quality of the item, the fit, and how much you love the style. If the item is really trendy and really low quality, then I doubt that any future young person 50 years from now is going to be excited to receive that clothing as a gift. If it's falling apart, if it's itchy and scratchy and doesn't fit well, then that piece of clothing probably doesn't have longevity to last into the future. So that's a question that I ask myself is, will a future descendant be happy to receive this item of clothing? And I always like to imagine my future children or relatives digging through all my old clothes and being super happy to receive them. And this may never happen, but it's a good question to ask yourself when thinking about whether it's worth your money and your closet space. Question number 4 is, how do I feel in this item of clothing? So if you don't feel good in a piece of clothing, then that's probably a good sign that it doesn't belong in your closet. And when I talk about how I feel in it, in this case, I'm talking about emotions. So do I feel confident? Do I feel like myself? Do I feel like the best version of myself? Or do I feel like I'm playing dress up as someone else? And does that make me slightly uncomfortable? Or maybe something feels off about the fit or the color, and that is just not giving you that boost of confidence that you need. From my experience, those pieces of clothing where I don't feel fully confident or fully like myself in them never get worn. And those just sit in my closet until years later, I decide that it's time to declutter them. And then I declutter them with a lot of guilt because I never wore them. So you can prevent this by asking yourself this question before you even purchase a piece of clothing, and that is, how do I feel in it? Really tap into your emotions and get your gut reaction about how you're feeling when you put a piece of clothing on your body. And that's why I think it's important, as you're decluttering items as well, to try them on and try on every single item that you're thinking of decluttering, because that really will give you a good sense of your feelings as you put it on your body and look in the mirror. If you don't feel like yourself and you don't feel confident and something feels off, and your gut is not screaming yes, then that is a no. So those are items to either declutter or not purchase. You might also have negative associations with certain pieces of clothing because of past experiences that you had while wearing them. And that also is reason enough to declutter an item. So maybe you went through a bad breakup while wearing this dress, and every time you see it, you get really negative feelings in the pit of your stomach. That is reason enough to get rid of that dress. I know it feels like a waste, and maybe at one point in time you loved this piece of clothing, but if that item is not serving you anymore and is bringing up negative feelings and not sparking joy, then you might want to consider decluttering it. Because also, as you're looking in your closet and you're seeing these items that don't really give you positive feelings, then those are taking up space of other items of clothing that make you feel good. And I feel like when you open your closet, you should feel good and inspired and confident and like yourself. And if that isn't the case when you look at your clothing, then you might want to reconsider whether it belongs in your wardrobe. Question number 5 kind of goes hand in hand with the previous question, but rather than dealing with how I feel emotionally, this question is, how do I feel physically? Am I comfortable in this piece of clothing? If you are physically uncomfortable, you probably will rarely ever wear it. And that probably doesn't deserve to take up space in your closet. So does it squeeze you in places that feel uncomfortable? Maybe you feel like you can't take a deep breath in it or eat a large meal because the waistband is squeezing you so tight. Or maybe it's a really itchy wool fabric and that's just something that you can't deal with. That's how I am personally. If an item of clothing is itchy or uncomfortable, then I am never wearing it. So when considering either purchasing or decluttering a piece of clothing, then ask yourself, am I comfortable? Question number 6 is this practical for my life? And this has to do with the functionality of clothing. So if it doesn't function well in your day-to-day life or for the purposes that you need it for, then it doesn't belong in your closet. That is taking up precious real estate, and realistically, if it's not functioning for your life, then it is a fantasy piece of clothing and you're never going to wear it. Maybe you'll put it on every once in a while and maybe you still love this piece of clothing, but if you're not able to actually wear it, then it doesn't make sense to hold on to that item. So some examples of this are maybe you can't wear white because you have a small child. Or maybe you're a teacher and you're constantly getting messy because of the students and the activities that you do at school. Then white probably doesn't make sense for your lifestyle. Or maybe again, if you have small children, then wearing a short skirt that is hard to move around in and bend over and pick things up, maybe that is not functional for your lifestyle. Function can also deal with the care of an item. So maybe that piece of clothing has to be dry cleaned only, and maybe that's something that you either just can't afford or you don't have time for, or you just know realistically that you will never do that. So maybe don't buy those pieces of clothing because they don't function for your lifestyle. And to go along with that question, number 7 is, where will I wear this? So this has to do with function as well, but you can get more specific about, where do I plan on wearing this piece of clothing? If you can't think of where you will realistically wear it, then don't purchase it. It doesn't belong in your closet because you will never wear it. And some items of clothing might have very specific reasons for why you own it. So for example, I have dresses that I only wear for special occasions. And maybe I don't wear them all that often, but when I do have that special occasion, I already have something that I can wear. So that serves a purpose and a function in my life, and I have a realistic reason to own that piece of clothing. And again, this has to do with fantasy self. So maybe you buy a piece of clothing for going out to nightclubs, for example. But let's say you're a person that never goes out to nightclubs. You don't need to own that piece of clothing. It doesn't function for a specific purpose in your life that is realistic to you. So you really have to ask yourself this question of, where will I wear this item? And is this just for a fantasy version of myself? Question number 8 is, how will I wear this? This has to do with the styling of a piece. So do you have other pieces of clothing that you can wear with this specific item? If you can't create an outfit out of a piece of clothing from what you already have in your closet, then chances are that you will struggle to wear it at all, and it will just live in your closet forever and take up space. So when I'm buying a piece of clothing or thinking about decluttering something, I like to try it on to see how I feel and how it fits, but I also like to try to pair it with other items from my wardrobe. So I try to put together a full outfit, and that includes, what outerwear will I wear with this? Or is this maybe only for summer and I don't need to worry about whether outerwear will fit or go on top? But most of the time, if I can't at least throw a sweater over it and have it look good, then it isn't practical for my wardrobe. And try to pair shoes with it. Maybe the cut of the jeans that you're thinking of buying, you really struggle to pair with your existing shoes. And as soon as you start getting into the territory of feeling like you need to buy other pieces of clothing in order to make this one item work, then that is a clear sign that this item of clothing does not belong in your closet. It does not function with what you already own. And if you are struggling to put together an outfit with your existing accessories and shoes and jackets and tops and bottoms, then it doesn't belong in your wardrobe. And that leads me into question number 9, which is, can I make multiple outfits out of this item? If that item is not versatile enough to make multiple outfits, then it doesn't belong in your closet. If you can only pair it with one pair of pants and one pair of shoes, and that is the one outfit that you can make with that top, for example, but it doesn't go with anything else that you already own, and you are struggling to put together more than 3 outfits, then it doesn't belong. So my rule of thumb for this is that I like to be able to make at least 3 outfits with an item. And if I can't easily make 3 different outfits, then it will not function for me realistically. Versatility is a huge factor that I consider when it comes to curating my closet. I want items to be able to mix and match and create multiple outfits 3 is really the bare minimum. I want to be able to grab almost anything from my closet and have it work together. And a huge part of this is knowing what color season I fall into. That has made a huge difference in allowing me to mix and match all of my clothing and have them work together. But that is a huge factor for me when considering making a purchase. If I can't make at least 3 outfits out of it, then that is an instant no. Question number 10 to ask yourself when curating your closet is, did I like this item before it was trending? And will I still like it after? If you only like an item because it is popular and trendy right now, but there has never been a precedent before of you liking this kind of item, or maybe even in the past you disliked this piece of clothing, but now it's trendy and now you want it, that is probably a clear sign that this would not be a wise purchase. So think about yourself both in the past and the future. How did and will you feel about this kind of clothing? An example for me is with bucket hats. So bucket hats have been really trendy in the past 5 years, and I used to wear bucket hats back in the early 2000s when I was a little kid. And I loved my bucket hats growing up. So when they came back in style recently, I really wanted to purchase a bucket hat. And I had to ask myself this question of, how did I feel about this item in the past? And how will I feel about it in the future? Do I only like it because it's trendy right now, or will it have longevity for me? Will I be embarrassed to wear this in the future once it's not trendy anymore, or does it feel like a part of my core style? And because I could look to the past and know that I liked bucket hats, and you don't even necessarily need to own that item in the past. Maybe you've just admired other people who have worn it or enjoyed that style or look for a while now, then that's a good sign that that piece of clothing is not just trendy for you in the moment, and that will have longevity for you in the future. So if you want to hold on to an item for more than a year or two, then make sure that it's not just a trend that you're hopping on and that you will like it for years to come. And this will also help you develop your own personal style, because if you're not just following the trends, which seem to go so fast lately, I feel like trends are in and out within a year. So if you really want to develop your own personal style, then don't follow the trends and really ask yourself, do I like this now just because it's trendy? And will I still like it in the future? If you won't still like it in the future, or you didn't like it in the past, then that is a clear sign that you shouldn't purchase that item. And then question number 11 is, where will I put this? If you don't have a clear idea of where you will be able to fit this item of clothing, then it probably doesn't have a place for you, quite literally, in your closet. If you don't have the space for it or the storage, then you probably shouldn't be purchasing it, or you need to think about what you need to get rid of in order to make space. And if there's nothing else that you want to get rid of and you don't have space for it, then you probably just shouldn't purchase it. Storage is a huge factor for me when it comes to buying clothing. My closet is really small and my dresser isn't very big either, and it is already at max capacity. So the thing that I do is I only have a limited number of hangers that fit in my closet, and I purposely don't allow myself to buy any more. If I don't have a hanger for it that is free and empty, then there's not space in my closet, and I either need to get rid of something to make space, or I just shouldn't purchase it. And maybe this won't be as much of a factor for you if you have a larger home and more storage. But if you're like me, then space is a huge determining factor in what I purchase for clothing. And that really forces me to have a curated closet because I don't have space for anything else. And then finally, I have a little bonus question, and that final question is maybe one of the most important questions on this list. And that is, can I afford it? So if you can't afford to either get rid of a piece of clothing because then you'd have to replace it, or you can't afford to buy the item in the first place, then it doesn't belong in your closet. No matter how good quality and how good the fit is, and whether you can imagine future descendants wanting this piece of clothing, if you can't afford to buy it in the moment, then it doesn't belong in your wardrobe. I definitely think you should buy the highest quality that you can afford and that makes sense for you for the practicality of your life and how much you'll use a piece of clothing. But a lot of things you can get secondhand and get that high quality for a better price. So maybe go that route, or maybe just hold off for a while and see whether you can live without the item or find a more affordable alternative. You might decide later on that you don't need that piece of clothing at all. So definitely ask yourself, can I afford this? And if the answer is no, then that pretty much negates all the other questions from this list. Don't go into debt for clothing. So those are all the questions on my list for what to ask yourself for a curated closet. Hopefully these are helpful for you and helpful for next time you're either doing a declutter of your wardrobe or thinking about purchasing a new item. And I'll try to put them on the screen right now so that you can screenshot this list for the future. So if you're ever unsure what to do with an item of clothing, then refer to this list and ask yourself all the questions. And I don't think that you even necessarily need to answer all of these questions in a positive way in order to decide to keep a piece of clothing. There might be a few questions here and there that maybe didn't pass the test, but use your judgment. And if the overwhelming majority of questions you answered in a positive yes way, then that is the green light to go ahead and either keep that piece of clothing or purchase it. But if there are several that you were unsure on or it was a no, even if there was one no that was a deal breaker for you, then that could be enough to either declutter or not purchase it in the first place. Let me know if you can think of any other questions that are helpful to ask yourself when making decisions on clothing. The goal with this list is to really curate your clothing in order to reduce waste and save money and make better decisions. We want longevity in our clothing so that things will last for years to come and we will continue to love them and get a lot of use out of them. I hope this was helpful and thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and I will see you next time. Bye!